more about also being a person. That's what right, like how is that story? How does it actually make sense? They didn't know because they don't have it. Know that. That's what
Good evening, everyone. I want to begin by apologizing for the last-minute change in time. It was due to the fact that a curfew was just imposed upon our community here, and so Mara, which is normally at 10 o'clock, has moved up to 9:30, and as such, the shir was moved back at the last minute. Hope it does not inconvenience anyone too much. The title of tonight's shir is something to the tune of thoughts and responses to the challenges that we are facing. And I want to begin by stating the obvious, and that is that I do not have any pipeline to Shamayim, which you don't have. Nor is my chachma, my insight any more profound than any of yours. But I do feel that it's incumbent upon each and every one of us to give some serious thought to the events that are unfolding around us, not just by the day, but practically by the hour. And I just want to do my part in thinking about it, trying to analyze it to whatever extent I'm capable of, and seeing what lessons I could possibly draw, what type of reaction I think is appropriate for myself, and if anybody else benefits by listening, then I'll be very happy. We see unprecedented events occurring, unprecedented at least for most of us in our lifetimes. We've heard about such things happening under Rahman al-San war conditions and other similar times of tzara, but most of us have never experienced anything like this. Yeshivas and shuls closing down, closing their doors, sending everybody away, sending everybody home. In many places, the shuls are closed. There are no minyanim. The yeshivas are closed. No shiurim, no classes for children, no chavrusa learning, nothing. Everything shut down. Of course, besides what we're able to do online. But in terms of coming in and learning in a base medrash, in a base knesses, davening b'tzibur, which cannot be done online, that's slowly being taken away from us day by day. More and more places, more and more shuls closing, etc. And besides that, the other events that are happening, the travel restrictions, the simple restriction, or wouldn't call it ban, but suggested ban on social interaction, on speaking to the next person within the same dalar amas as you normally would, certainly on shaking their hands or giving them a friendly arm around the shoulder. All that is taboo right now. All that can't be done in most areas. Quarantines, people forced to be secluded by themselves. These are things that we've never experienced as a tzibur in the last tens of years. And as I said, probably most of us never experienced it all in our lives. So I think it behooves us to pay some attention to it, as I'm sure all of you are, and try to see what we can make of it, what type of response we should have. Now, I don't expect to say any major chidushim. Probably most or all of what I'm going to say is pashut to you, and you've already thought about it. And if it's not pashut, then maybe it's not even correct. But we'll put it out there, and we'll do our best. if yeshivas and shuls are closing down and we're no longer able to walk, at least for the time being right now, hopefully it'll be just for a very, very short time. But right now we're unable to walk into a base medrash or a base knesses and take advantage of the usual opportunities we have there, as I said before, Tchil B'tzibur, etc., then it makes sense perhaps to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking to us and telling us that we've been taking it too much for granted. We haven't been appreciating this phenomenal schus that we have, Baruch Hashem, so many Batei Knesset, so many Batei Medrash, so many places to walk in and learn. Every different Ada, every different group has, in many, many communities, especially in the larger Jewish communities, has their choice of any number of Batei Medrash to go into, any number of Batei Knesios where they could find a minyan with their nusach and their speed and their chevra, etc., etc. And even in smaller cities where they don't have such a wide choice, but the opportunities are growing and there are more and more shuls and more Batei Medrash, Baruch Hashem. And perhaps we've been taking it too much for granted. Perhaps we haven't been showing the appreciation that we should have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that this exists and that we have all these opportunities on a regular basis under normal circumstances. And maybe that's contributing to the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, we have to shake you up a little bit. We have to shut everything down and reshuffle and give you a chance to realize what it means not to have this. And as a result, to begin to appreciate it more. Now, the Mishnah Bureau, at the beginning of Siman Mem Vav, brings down from the Shari Tshuva, who in turn is quoting it from earlier sources, the following words: Kodem bo lebeis hakneses, before a person goes into shul, ba'od shehu adayin b'chatzer beis hakneses, when he's only in the chatzer, in the courtyard, in the anteroom, in the hallway, as you like. Yomar should say the following words: Beveis Elokim nehalech b'ragesh. V'yargish v'yirta, a person should feel, should sense the Kedushas HaMakom, and he should tremble. V'yirta means he should tremble. A person should tremble in awe of the Makom that he's about to enter. V'yargish v'yirta atzmo b'hikansel beis hakneses mirov pechado, from his great, tremendous amount of pachad, of fear. Yiras haromimus, fear of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and fear of the fact that I'm about to enter his home. We know that, or we can imagine that, if a person were all of a sudden thrust in front of the Beis HaMikdash, and Halavai, it should happen soon, I imagine that most of us would stop for a minute before we walked in. Even when people get to the Kosel, I believe many people, especially those who are not there so frequently, will stop a little, stop and reflect and contemplate before they just throw themselves onto the Kotel Plaza. They'll think about it. Where am I? This is the Makom HaMikdash. This is as close as we can get to Shari Shamayim on this earth. So even if we're not at the Kotel, we're in the United States or wherever we are, our Batei Knesios, our Batei Midrashos are the Mikdash Ma'at. That's what Chazal call them. The Pasuk calls them a Mikdash Ma'at. And it's the closest we can get to touching HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the closest we can get to the Makom Hashras Hashchina, the closest we can get. And before we walk into such a phenomenal place, such a holy place, such an elevated place, we have to stop and think and realize that this is where we are, and not just walk in. We have to stop. V'yirgash v'yirta, a person should tremble. Latzmo being consular beis hakneses mirov pechado. Look it up. Look at the words of the Mishnah Bureau. It's in the Hakdama to Siman Mem Vav. The Yamtin, I'm continuing now, he should pause. The Yishema'at, he should pause a little bit. V'yomar, and then should say, V'ani berov chastecha avovesecha. It's only because you're tremendous chesed, Hashem. I realize it's your chesed that allows me to enter such a makom. It's your chesed. It's not something I should take for granted, not something I necessarily deserve. It's not coming to me. But the Chesed Hashem that allows me to walk into a Beis Knesses, a Beis Medrash, to find a Chavrusa, to find a Shir, to find a Siddur, a Minyan, a Sefer Torah, to find everything I need in order to start off my day right, or to daven mincha right, to cap off my day perhaps with a learning Seder and with a Tfilas Mariv. Eshlachav el heichal kodshecha b'yirasecha, and I will prostrate myself before you, before your holy makom, before your sacred makom, biyirasecha. After saying that, and I would add, after thinking about the words that you're saying, after contemplating what those words means, imagine a person who chas v'shalom was ill for an extended period of time and he could not go to shul. Maybe he was hospitalized, maybe he was homebound, and then finally, after a prolonged period of time, he's able to go to shul. I think he would say it with a little more kavanah. I think he would feel it. I think he would experience it. So why do we have to wait for that? Why do we have to wait to chas v'shalom be unable to go? Well, we're there now. In many communities, we've reached that point, unfortunately, as a tzibur. In many communities, as a tzibur, we can't go, we can't enter. So perhaps we didn't have full appreciation and take full advantage of realizing the Kedushas HaMakom that we're zocha to enter. Maybe that's part of the reason why Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying, okay, let's take a little break. Let's have you stay outside for a little while, and then begin to appreciate it more, begin to realize what you're missing. Imagine what it's going to be for people to have days, hopefully for not too long, but even if it's just a couple of days, it's already been, in many places, it's already been close to a week, or maybe more than a week in some communities. Can you imagine what it is? Maybe you're not just imagining, maybe you're experiencing it. To have to daven by yourself all the time. Shachas, Mincha, Marav, which means no Kaddish, no Kedusha, no Chazaras Hashatz, no Kriyas HaTorah, no opportunities for Baruch Hu or Amen Yeshmei Rabbah, all that, and nobody around you to help uplift your davening. It's difficult. It's challenging. We're not used to it. It's not something we ever wanted to experience. But maybe Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying you have to experience for a little bit, hopefully just a little bit, so that when you come back, you'll appreciate it more. Maybe this is one thing to start doing, to start fulfilling this Mishnah Bureau, in Hakdama to Siman Mem Vav, to stop and say, Beveis Elokim Nahalech Beragesh, and to feel the pachad, and to feel the Chesed Hashem that we're able to enter. The Chavetz Chaim in Sefer Chavetz Chaim, when he's discussing the mitzvah saseh that a person is potentially in violation of if he speaks lashon hara, mitzvah number zayin, he says v'chol zeh, all these things that I've listed till now, all the lavin and all the mitzvah saseh that one violates, is afilu shelo bebeis hamedrash. Aval medaber lashon hara or chilas bebeis hamedrash or bebeis haknesses. But if chas v'shalom a person talks lashon hara or a chilas in a beis knesses or a beis hamedrash, so he's over, in addition, the pasuk of Mikdashi Tirou, have Yira from the Mikdash. As we know, as he says, Beis HaMedrash Shalanu Gam Kain B'chal Mikdashu. As we mentioned before, it's called the Mikdash Ma'at. And he goes on to say, skipping a little bit, but take a look inside. It's Mitzvah Zayin, Mitzvah Saseh Zayin. He says, if a person speaks Lashon Hara, or a Chilus, which itself is a horrific Avera, but he does it in the Beis Medrash, or in the Beis Knesses, then it shows Mare Ba'atzmo Sheino Mamin, that he doesn't even believe Shekadosh Baruch Hu Yasher Shechinasu B'Bayis Hazeh. It shows, his actions show that he doesn't believe that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is here. He doesn't believe that this is a Malkum of Rashar Shechina. Ulekach Hu Meiz Panav, therefore he has the Azus Panim, he has the audacity, he has the tremendous chutzpah. Afilu L'daber B'Beis HaMelech. To speak in the Beis HaMelech, in the king's palace. He's standing in front of the king. The king is Kiviyachol there himself, and he's turning to his friend and speaking words which anger the king, which upset the king, which the king has restricted and commanded us against in so many ways. That's Lashon Hara Chilas. But it's not just that. The Mishnah Bureau brings down, the Chavetz Chaim brings down here in the Hagaf, the Lashon of the Zohar Kodesh, Parshas Truma. Man de ishtai b'bei knishta milu d'chol. One who speaks divrei chol, just profane, non-Torah, non-tefillah, non-mitzvah words in the Beis Knesses. Vayle, the achse peruda. Peruda l'char is miloshin perud. Separation. It causes separation. It causes rifts. Maybe it's partially responsible for us being separated from the Beis Knesses, and for some people being separated from everyone else and being quarantined. Not necessarily chas v'shalom to say that anyone who's in that state is personally responsible. Chas v'shalom, far be it from me to even allude to such a thing. but maybe the tzibur as a whole has to offer certain karbanos, certain people that are suffering this peirud, suffering this separation from the rest of the tzibur. Vai to such a person, digara mehimanusa, that it's lacking he's lacking his emuna, even for divrei chol, not just for lashon hara chilas, but divrei chol and the Beis Knesset. So this is one area, one obvious area. As I said, this is not a chiddush. I don't think there's a person listening to me to whom this hasn't occurred already, who hasn't realized that if the doors of the Batei Knesiyos and the Batei Midrashos are being slammed in our face, then it's probably at least partially because we haven't been appreciating them and we haven't been acting in them the way we should. Before I go on to my next thought, just want to point out a lashon in davening. I don't want to forget to say this. We daven every morning in Psukei de Zimra. I'm hesitating if I should throw in the line. We say it every morning, provided that we're there on time and that we're able to say the entire Psukei de Zimra related to the topic we're discussing. In parentheses, we say every morning, "Vayivarech David es Hashem al Nei Kol Kol," and we say, "L'cha Hashem Hagedula, Kadosh Baruch Hu, yours is greatness, v'Hagavura and might, v'Hatiferes, glory, v'Hanetzach, v'Hod, etc., etc., Kichol b'Shamayim v'Aretz." And we say, "V'Ha'osher v'Hakavod milefanecha," wealth, financial well-being, kavod, honor is milefanecha. Ve'ata Moshel Bakol. You control everything. We have to think about that right now when the stores are shutting or the shelves are empty. We want to go buy basic necessities, basic items. If we don't think about twice under normal circumstances, and we can't get them. If we want to enable ourselves to take advantage of any other type of services which are normally pashut, it's no shaila. Who doesn't go to his computer and book himself 10 flights if he has a need to, or one flight, or whatever it is. And now, no, slow down. Flights, first of all, even if flight's available, it might not be safe to take. And who says it's available? And if it is available, what are the prices, etc., depending on various factors. We have to remember that Kodesh Baruch Hu is controlling every single bit of this, every single element of this. And again, that's partially perhaps what he's trying to remind us, that don't take life for granted. Don't take the amenities of life for granted. Don't take the conveniences of life for granted. We have a chefza called a convenience store, right? Convenience store. Every store is a convenience store, but don't take it for granted. Yes, it's very convenient. And Kodesh Baruch Hu, I've given it to you for a long time now, and you've gotten more and more accustomed to it. And you have it also, you have it online, you have it in so many different ways. Slow down. I'm running everything, I'm controlling everything, and not everything is going to be so available for you at all times. So you should remember, you should stop and reflect where it all comes from. And I think one more thing, just to point out in davening, I think when we're all davening now, besides the tehillim that we're saying as a tzibur, etc., and everybody should want to ask you when you get to the bracha, re'einu v'anyenu, Kadosh Baruch Hu, see our oni, our affliction, our suffering. V'riva rivenu uge'aleinu mehira l'man shmecha. This doesn't refer to the gula hasid. This doesn't refer to geula that we say Ga'al Yisrael, that we mispal for the gula that Klal Yisrael should be nigal. This refers to ge'aleinu, save us from personal tsaras, or tzibur tsaras, but save us from the day-to-day things. So I think that it behooves us to have special kavanah in that bracha, Shemona Esrei. I'm pointing this one out because it's one someone might overlook. Probably most people realize Shema Koleinu, Chus Rachem Aleinu. We realize that, but this bracha might not be on the forefront of everybody's mind, but it should be right now. I believe it always should be, but especially now. Spare us from these tzaras. Spare us from the tzara of a locked door on a shul, or a yeshiva sending home all its bachrim or yungalite, or spare us from the tzaras of not being able to live a normal lifestyle, and certainly from the tzara of Rahman al-Litzan, anybody actually contracting the illness, chas v'shalom, anybody actually being ill and having to deal with the consequences of that. Okay. The other point I wanted to mention that perhaps bears reflection, I think perhaps it's no coincidence that we're in between two parshios which talk about the chashivas, the greatness of Shabbos. Let me just grab the chumash. Both parshas Ki Sisa and parshas Vayakel, towards the beginning, talk about the godless of Shabbos, the importance of Shabbos, the Kedusha of Shabbos. I'll just point out Vayakal first because it talks about Sheishis Yom and Peyos Malacha right at the beginning. Uvayom Shvi Yelechem Kodesh should be a day of sanctity, of Kedusha, Shabbos and Hashem. In Parshas Kisisa as well, which we just learned last week, we have a discussion there of Shabbos towards the beginning of the parsha, towards the end of the first Aliyah. And there, the pasuk says, "Ushmartem es Shabbos ki kodesh ilachem." The pasuk says later, the idea of a Yom Shvi Shabbos Shabboson, pasuk Tezvav, Vayom Shvi Shabbos Shabboson Kodesh Lashem. So the Chavetz Chaim in his Kuntres Beis Yisrael Perik Beis points out the following. He points out the fact that there's two lashonos of kedusha used. Twice it says that Shabbos is Kodesh. It says Ki Kodesh Ilachem twice back to back, and then it says Vayom Shvi Shabbos Shabboson Kodesh Lashem. And he says the first, they're referring to two separate things. Hatzivei ha'echad, the first command, Lasas is HaShabbos Kodesh Lashem b'maiseh, dibur u'machshava, through one's actions, one's speech, and one's thoughts. Shalo lahasiach das mikedushasa, not to be mesiach das, not to take your mind off of the kedusha Shabbos. That means as much as possible throughout the entire day of Shabbos. Shalo lahasiach das mikedushasa. Not this is the lashon of the Heilige Chavetz Chaim. Shalo lahasiach das mikedushasa, not to lose sight of the kedushas Shabbos. The tzivay hasheni is lehizaher shlo lechalala b'asiyas malacha, not to chas v'shalom do any malacha on Shabbos. Now we know Chavetz Chaim brings in his akdama to the third chelik of Mishnah Bureau from the Oris Devash from Rabbi Yonasan and Eibeshitz. He brings that it's impossible for a person to be shomer Shabbos properly. Ki efshar klal b'mitzius. It's impossible. It doesn't exist. Sheyinotzel me'isr Shabbos, that a person should be spared from chil Shabbos. Im lo yilmad kol adinim al buriam heitiv. If he doesn't learn all the halachas thoroughly, heitiv. But besides the isr malacha on Shabbos, and besides the mitzvahs say, the technical mitzvahs say of kiddush and of suda Shabbos and lechem mishnah v'chulu v'chulu, there's a huge element of kedusha Shabbos which I myself and maybe some of you, perhaps maybe some, could use chizuk in being more careful about. Kedusha Shabbos involves what we speak about on Shabbos, amongst other things. The Mishnah Bureau in Siman Shin Zayin, at the very beginning, Sivkat and Hey, he brings down the idea, v'hanishmar miladaber divrei chol, one who's careful not to speak divrei chol on Shabbos, kadoshi amarlo. There are people who are more careful that when they speak on Shabbos, even dvarim hechrechiyim, even things which are necessary to speak about, they speak ki im b'lashon hakodesh, only in lashon, only in Hebrew. And the Mishnah Bureau says near that it's a geder just to protect them that they won't come lidei sicha b'teila. We know not too long ago we had amongst us till a few years ago one of the Gedolei Adar, Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg, Zichron Livracha, who didn't speak at all on Shabbos, a tiny Shabbos. I don't know for how many years he did it, but for as long as I was aware, he wouldn't speak at all on Shabbos, tiny Shabbos, other than Divrei Torah and Tefillah. I saw it myself. I remember having the schus of landing in the Vasika Minyan in Chicago, the very first Shabbos it started when Rav Scheinberg was there for a visit going back many years ago, and he himself always davened Vasikin, so they made a minyan. It was Parshas Baloscha, and they needed a Balkari, so they asked me. So I had the schus of coming and landing at that minyan, and Rav Scheinberg didn't tell me your shekayach afterwards. He gave me a hug. Baruch Hashem, then you can give hugs. He gave me a hug as a thank you. He didn't speak on Shabbos, so he didn't say your shekayach, but he gave me a hug. It was worth more to me than the shekayach. But he didn't speak on Shabbos, so that's beyond most of us. But to be careful when we do speak, what we speak about, especially at the Suda Shabbos, and especially in shul on Shabbos, where we meet so many more people that we don't have time to schmooze with during the week. But Shabbos is not a good time for schmoozing, and certainly not in shul, and certainly not to walk out from davening into the hallway and schmooze on Shabbos, because inevitably we're not schmoozing about the parsha or about what we learned in Kinyan Masechta or any other Seder that we have, because for that we wouldn't have to walk out. For that we'd have the patience to speak about it during the Kiddush or afterwards. If we're walking out into the hall, we're speaking about other things, which we shouldn't be talking about Bechlal on Shabbos, and certainly not during Zman Tefillah. But we're talking now about the Kedusha Shabbos, about what, being careful about what we speak about an entire Shabbos, at the Sudas, at home, in shul, any other time. Now, there are many, many halachas in Siman Shin Zayin. There are many halachas about what you are, about what you can or cannot speak about Shabbos. And I should add, what I meant to focus on as well is what you are or are not allowed to read on Shabbos. There are many halachas of reading Divrei Chol, of the Isurim involved in reading Divrei Chol. We call it Shtari Hedyotos. That's one name. There are many specific halachas. It behooves all of us to learn over those halachas in Siman Shin Zayin. But beyond those, but that's already a major step. If we're able to fulfill those halachas, that's a major, major step. But even the heterim that may exist, possible heter of Onik Shabbos, to read some of the things which would otherwise be usher to read, is that Sad heter, is a Magen Avram, it's a Sad heter of Onik Shabbos. But even that, to do our best to curtail it. We have to replace the sources of Onik Shabbos that are not completely kosher for Shabbos, not completely in keeping with the Kedusha Shabbos and with the Ruach HaShabbos and with the Ratzon HaBorei for what we do on Shabbos. We have to try to replace it with things of greater value, with more learning Siddharim, and with more books and sources of true value, true Torah value. If it's not a Gemara or a Mishnah Bureau or a Shulchan Aruch or a whatever it may be, if it's not, or a Chumash with Mefarshim, if it's not that, but at least with sources, at least with other material which is indeed appropriate for Shabbos, which is not a book where the characters' names are Shlomi or Chani or whatever it is, but a actual source of Torah, of Limud Torah, an actual source of Hashkafas Torah, an actual source of Torah values which are valuable, which are necessary, which are zugepasst for using on Shabbos. I want to share with you, it's getting late for me. I want to share with you the words of the Sforno in this week's parsha. Bear with me just for a moment. A little scattered here with my notes. The words of the Sforno in the Parshas Kisisa at the end of Rishon, on the pasuk of Vayom Hashvi Shabbos Vayinofash. The Sforno writes, "V'lachei nasa hashvi'i," the seventh day became Bal Nefesh Yisera, a day when there's we call it a neshama Yisera. V'hi tosefes hakchana, it's additional, let's call it potential. Lahasig mashekivein alav akel yisbarach, that additional potential, the neshama Yisera on Shabbos gives us additional potential to achieve that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu had in mind, b'shleimus pe'ulaso, ba'amro, not when he said, Nasa Adam b'tzalmenu kidmusenu, which just on the surface, just barely basically translating his words, we know that the Adam, human being, is the Tachlis Habriya, certainly Klal Yisrael. And it's our job, it's our mission from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to try to reach Shleimus. So on Shabbos, we are given extra potential, extra ability to do that. On Shabbos, we have the Yecholos to accomplish, to achieve a lot more with our mitzvahs, with our Maisim Tovim. If we stay focused on what we should stay focused, if we try as much as possible to minimize or even halavai to eliminate the Divrei Chol, politics, current events, which are not Toradic, and everything else of the sort, and certainly things, the reading material, which we shouldn't be looking at possibly even during the week, but certainly not on Shabbos. If we try our best to eliminate that and replace it with as much as possible. Now, I know that this is a big task. I understand that. And I'm not necessarily giving you practical ideas other than in a general sense, how to do it. Everybody has to make his own cheshbon and nefesh for himself, for his mishpacha. and see what it can be mashpia on his chaverim, how to do it, how to implement this. And even if it's not all or nothing, even if one can't completely eliminate it, but if it means adding a seder, if it's a half an hour seder, an hour seder, adding some form of liman on Shabbos, a new chavrusa shaf, which hopefully you'll be able to do. But even if it's not a chavrusa shaf, in the meantime, at least limud Torah in some form. To add that to your schedule. So by adding that, it's twofold. You're eliminating very possibly something negative, and you're adding something tremendously positive, which will help you reach this tachlis, help you reach the kavana that Kodesh Baruch Hu had by giving us Shabbos, which is giving us additional potential. Just want to end with the words of the Chafetz Chaim, which he told Rebbe Lapian. It's brought in the David Zucker Shlita from Chicago brings it in his Sefer Teres Dudam, quoting it from the Sefer Rebbe Eliyahu, the biography of Rebbe Lapian, that when Rebbe Eliyahu Lapian was by the Chafetz Chaim, once the Chafetz Chaim told him that it says that mitzvah shmira Shabbos is shkula keneged kol haTorah kula. Chazal tell us that observing Shabbos is shkula keneged kol haTorah kula. It weighs against. It says important. It says chashuv. It says weighty as in observing the entire Torah. So says the Chafetz Chaim, lefi zeh kol mitzvah sha'osim b'Shabbos shavet taryag mitzvahs. Any mitzvah you fulfill on Shabbos is worth taryag mitzvahs. And any word of Torah you learn, which the Chafetz Chaim says, we know from the Vilna Gaon, every word of Torah is a mitzvah. Every word of Torah, you get not only the regular schar of Talmud Torah, which is huge, which is immense, but is multiplied. The schar of Talmud Torah is now multiplied by 613. Every word of Torah is multiplied by 613. And the Chafetz Chaim makes a cheshbon elsewhere that a person can learn 200 words in a minute. So 200, besides now getting 200 mitzvahs a minute, which he says over there, it's 200. The Chafetz Chaim told Rebbe Eliyahu Lapian on Shabbos, it's 200 times 613, which comes out to 122,600. That means in 1 minute, a person can be Mekayim 122,600 mitzvahs of Talmud Torah, not just mitzvahs of Talmud Torah. Imagine what you could do in a half an hour, in 20 minutes, in half an hour, in an hour, in a day where you're focused on it, and not just focused on the one Seder, but at your Torah, at your Suda rather, at your Shabbos table. More Divrei Torah, share more Divrei Torah. Engage your children, engage your guests if you're able to have guests. When you're able to have guests, engage them in Divrei Torah, engage them in Ruchnias, engage them in more, whether it's on the parsha, when something you learned during the week. It doesn't make a difference if they're not learning that Masechta. They'll be interested to hear about the interesting mimer of the Gemara, etc. You'll make it interesting, and you'll engage them, and throw it in wherever you can. Include it every single time. You're multiplying your schus by a tremendous amount. So, as I said, I'm sure you agree with me that I haven't said one word of chiddush here. All I tried to do is bring things to the forefront, and perhaps if you don't agree with what I said, so adrabah. You be machadish what you think we need to think about, but that's the ikar. Everybody has to give some thought. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu, who said to the Yam Dai, will say to all Atzaris Dai, everyone should be gesund. Everyone who's now unfortunately not in the top of health should have a refuah shlema, all Chal Yisrael, and everyone who's well should stay well, and all the tzaras should end. But the Medrash, but the Knesset should be open very, very soon. We should see the Yeshuas that we're all looking for in a very quick, very quickly and very soon. Thank you very much.